Hydrocast. The Hydrocast.
In the great hall of the Justice League, there are assembled the world's greatest heroes, created from the cosmic legends of the universe.
Scott McDermott,
I was bit by a black widow in Hamul in my sleep.
Harrison Perkins,
Every muscle in my body is clenching right now.
And
Scott Clark,
You know, I would like to get to know a tarantula.
their mission to fight injustice, to right that which is wrong, and to serve all mankind.
ladies and gentlemen, the Super Friends.
Good morning, Vietnam!
We'll do it live. No. We'll do it live.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Jehovah's Witness?
No, sir. Federal Bureau of Investigation.
That's in honor of Scott McDermott. Can you recognize that?
Well, that's Dana Scully,
Okay.
but I don't know what episode that's from. It must be from a newer.
I have no idea. I just found it
I appreciate
in
that.
the wild on the internet. In case the listeners didn't track that, can you explain the source of that? Not the exact episode, but just the source.
The source is a television show, a program called The X-Files, where
Okay.
two FBI agents have a camera following them at all times. And
Yeah.
one is Fox Mulder and two is Dana Scully. And
Yeah.
they were obviously at somebody's door, and whomever opened that door said, "Are you Jehovah's Witnesses?" And she said, "No,
Yeah.
we're FBI agent."
Yeah.
Thank you for X-filing us. We appreciate
Sure.
that.
Yeah. I didn't know if Dr. Perkins was an X-Files fan or not, but you said that you were.
I liked it. I've never made it through the whole thing. I watched it, and then I got confused when Mulder went off.
Yeah, that was the point.
I never quite pulled out of it. I don't really know what happened.
Keeping up with their mythology, it's a lot of work. So, and frankly, not worth the effort. But their monsters of the week are the best, like Twilight Zone.
Right. Yeah. Those were the ones I liked. And then the other ones I couldn't quite get what was going on. The one with the alien that was a ghost, that one, that's like 2 layers of what's going on.
Well, so what were they hunting? I confess, I don't believe I ever watched an episode of the X-Files, but it was, on and around. And I mean, I maybe watched a few moments because I knew who Mulder and Scully were.
That is a great name, by the Fox Mulder.
And Dana Scully?
You got to be cool to pull it off. But
I think Scully was a shout out to Vin Scully. And I believe the writer is from Southern California. And he was, I think, in San Diego. And he grew up as a Chargers fan because there's a lot of random San Diego Chargers references like Dan Fouts, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Oh, no, I believe that. I believe that. So what were they hunting? Was it just all kinds of paranormal phenomena or were they
it was
hunting
paranormal
specific?
phenomena. It was anything that didn't fit the normal FBI classification got thrown into a separate file called the X-Files down in the basement.
X-Files.
And that's what he worked on. And it was kind of all over the place, but there was some alien abduction stuff going on. And it was always this misdirection. Is it the government doing it, or are there actual aliens, or is the government working with aliens? And so if you track, by the end of it, you're still not really sure what is what. And I think that was kind of the point.
Fox Mulder's sister was abducted when he was a child.
But was she?
But was she? Yeah. Or was she just kidnapped?
Or was she cloned?
I don't know.
Yeah. So that's the point.
See, I think that, Scott, you resonated with this because of living in Double Hamul.
Where there's a lot of supernatural phenomena occurring.
Well, I mean, the aliens tend to show up in places like Double Hamul for some reason.
Are you talking about illegal aliens? Because you were right.
No. Well, I don't know if the little gray men from other planets have gotten permission to enter the United States or not. I don't know their immigration status, but I was talking about the little gray men.
Gotcha. There is a mountain in Hamul that was completely flat. And that's because there were people who went up to that mountain, just completely bulldozed it, flattened it, and they were waiting for an alien ship. That's real. From the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
And so besides that cult, there were people called the Blue People. and they lived in like double, triple Hamul. And they would
Yeah.
fake, like a car broken down or someone on the side of the road. And then when you try to help them, these people who were all blue would come out and grab you, kill you.
How were they blue? Were they blue because they lacked oxygen?
Kind of like how the Picts were blue. They made themselves blue.
Oh, they painted themselves.
Yeah.
So that would be a clue. If a vehicle was broken down in the road and the people around it were blue, you would probably shouldn't.
No, they would come out of the bushes after you get out of the car to help.
Oh,
And then
okay.
the Proctor Valley Monster. So where I'm from in regular Hamul, I'm not from double Hamul. I'm from regular.
Oh, see, I'm confused. I thought you lived in Double Hamul.
Well, double Hamul is a thing, but
Yes.
I'm from regular Hamul, Proctor Valley, and I lived up on the
Okay.
mountain overlooking the valley. So I could see all of Hamul. It was great.
Yes.
But there was the Proctor Valley Monster, and you had to watch out for him. He was kind of
Okay.
like if you've ever seen the Hook legend, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm aware of it, but I've not seen it. Is there a movie about the Hook?
I think it's just a legend where
Okay.
the guy kills people who go out into the valley. The
Oh,
kids
okay.
who go out into the
Well,
valley.
yeah. That was every teenage, hangout culture,
Yeah.
there's always some boogeyman who would get you if you got caught parking back when I was a kid, right? There was always some bad guy who would, I remember hearing about that stuff.
And there was some zombie thing mixed in. So
yeah.
yeah, that's probably why I liked X-Files. You're right.
Yeah. See, I know you.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Because for whatever reason, the aliens, the little gray men, tend to frequent trailer parks. And I'm not demeaning trailer parks. I have family who, I don't know if anybody's currently living in a trailer park, but I've had family live for extended periods in trailer parks. So
I don't believe Hamul has trailer park.
Hamul is a trailer park, isn't it? I mean,
I don't.
we have
I don't.
no,
think that's.
trailer parks are different here, right? Because they're considered normal modes of living. There are, I don't know how many trailer parks there are in Escondido and San Marcos and Vista.
You came out to my house. You both came out to my house. Were there trailers?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Your house? No.
Did you see any
No,
trailers?
not at your house. Well, things are squirreled away around here. Nothing's flat. Who knows what's around the next
Maybe in
corner.
the canyons.
We were so far out that I was worried about where I was.
And you were
if I
in
was
regular.
lost.
Hamul. You were in single Hamul.
See, that doesn't make any sense because we were out in the sticks. I was pretty sure that was double Hamul.
No, that's regular. Listener, you need to go look up Hamul, Jamul, California, and you will not find any trailer parks.
Yes, it's a trick too, right? Hamul that's the correct pronunciation, and just like Hamasha, right?
Just like La Jolla.
Yes, La Jolla. So anyway,
Our fellow intern at New Life, the Jimenez family.
how are you, Pastor Perks?
Yeah, doing all right. Here we are.
That's true. We are here, wherever that is.
You should mention your website. Pastor Perks has a website. We mention the Heidel blog all the time, of course, but
I do know that the work done to build it was fantastic. So Laura Gregory at Blue Heron did a great job. Really thankful for her great work there. It makes me look like I might be credible.
What's the address of your website?
PastorPerks.org.
One more time.
PastorPerks.org. All my stuff that is available for free is linked there. I haven't pulled it off the Heidel blog, but there are links to all my Heidel blog posts there, all in one place, and articles that I've written at Ligonier and Modern Reformation, other popular outlets like that, but then also my academic journal articles, any of those that are not behind a paywall. There's a link and you can download them there. Find all the podcast episodes I've done, links to where to find my books and that kind of thing. So, yeah. And if you need a website, look for Laura, Blue Heron.
Okay. Blue Heron.
She does great work.
Oh, good.
Not
I
just for
appreciate
you,
that.
but your church or any of those things. She's very competitively priced for the quality of work she does. I mean, I think it's stellar work. and she probably doesn't charge enough.
This is the Heidelcast.
You know, church websites, that is a passion of mine. So pastors, elders, deacons, people on the web committee, I want you to listen to me for a minute. It's highly likely that your church website stinks and that it hasn't been updated in 6 years. And that there's a lot of out-of-date information on it. And that's because you've turned it over to a volunteer committee, and they met well, and they worked at it for a while, but then people move, things change, and I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. It's just the way it is. Your church website probably, if my experience holds true, doesn't tell people when the service is, where you are. You have to hunt through the website to find the church address, the time of the service. The number one reason people come to your website is to find out where you are and what time your services are. And those are the two things that you most frequently hide from people. It's nobody's fault, because a lot of people who set up church websites don't know what they're doing, and they don't know the sort of the basic philosophy of a good website, which is to make things as easy for the user as possible. And frankly, not everybody shares that.
Also, if you are a NAPARC or PCA, OPC, whatever church you are, please put that somewhere on the website so I don't have to waste my time if I'm on vacation looking for a church.
Yeah. By the way, one thing you can do, listener, if you're traveling this summer, or when you're traveling this summer, is to go to heidelblog.net/resources. And right at the top of the resource page are a couple of different ways to find NAPARC churches, North American Presbyterian and Reformed Council churches. And that would be URCNA, OPC, PCA, RPCNA.
PCUSA.
No, not PCUSA.
Oh, shoot.
What am I forgetting?
Covenanters?
ARP.
Did you say the Covenanters?
I did. I said RPCNA.
RCA?
ARP. No, they are not in NAPARC. So the PCUSA, the RCA, not in NAPARC. So there's a NAPARC church finder. You just type in, that's the one I use most often. You type in the zip code of where you're going to be, and then you can set the parameters, 15 miles, 25 miles, 50 miles. Anyway, and find out where the nearest NAPARC churches are to where you're going to be on your trip. So heidelblog.net/resources, and use the church finder there. And somebody did yeoman work putting that together. We didn't do it. We just linked to it. If you have a problem with it, don't contact me. I can't help you. I don't even know who did it. We just linked to it. That's it. So hire Laura, and we have a wonderful web designer too, Admiral Web Services, ADMIRAAL. So if you need to contact Admiral Web Services, they do the Heidelblog, and they do fantastic work.
That's a commanding surname.
Admiral. Yes, it is.
No, well, never mind. That was, well,
I got it.
yeah.
Where's the church finder on your website? I can't.
heidelblog.net/resources. Right towards the top, you just scroll down a little bit from the top. There's a couple of different ways to find churches. Evidently, it's not as easy to find as I thought it was. You have a puzzled look on your face.
Oh, I did /resources. Okay. There it is. How to find a confessional Presbyterian. I was looking for it. You're saying type in /resources.
Yeah, you have to type in. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or just use the menu, use the about menu, and there's a link to resources there. And then you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah, heidelblog.net/resources is where it is. It's pretty clearly marked.
Wow. You're in trouble if you're in northern Montana.
Yes, that's true.
Or Utah. Or Nevada. What the heck?
If you're in the Mountain West, it's pretty sparse. If you're on the plains, it can be pretty sparse too. But yeah, we have a lot of work to do. All the energy, the church planting energy, has tended to go to the cities, and we've sort of neglected rural America. So that's kind of a passion of mine too. But please don't forget the plains. People in the plains and in the Mountain West, they have souls too. And we need congregations. A little harder to sell to the church planning committees and the church growth wizards who make these decisions, but those people have souls. And your return on investment maybe won't be as exciting as it might be in a suburban area, a sprawling suburban area, or a densely populated metro area. But there's work to do in those places. And by the way, people are moving to the Mountain West. don't know how many churches we've planted in the sort of greater Boise area, but I know in just recent years we've got, I think, 2 new churches between Boise and Nampa, I believe. One for sure in Meridian, and that's in part because of all the people who fled California and moved to Idaho. We had 2 for a long time, and now I think we have 5. So for us, at least 4, but I think maybe 5. And we're doing some planting in Oregon too, the URCs. Working on a church plant in Central Oregon in the Bend, Redmond area. Central Oregon Reformed Church or something. I'm not sure what they're calling it. But we have a interim there for the moment. So there you go. All right, we ready to open the coffer?
Yeah.
No.
All right. I think you're just being contrary.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Super Friends. Hi, this is the voice. It's been a long winter. Spring is here, and it's time to get out of the coffer and back in touch with nature. It's great to hear the stream flowing, the birds, and even the bees. I guess the bee crisis is past. We have a lot of them this spring. Huh? Pollen is back too, but that's okay. As you get out and about, don't forget to take the Heidelcast with you wherever you go. Download our free Heidel app from the App Store or Google Play. Creation declares the glory of God. The Heidelberg Reformation Association is also devoted to the glory of God. We're dedicated to recovering the Reformed Confession and to helping others discover it. Won't you help us help you? Use the donate button in the app or on the Heidel blog, or send a tax-deductible check to Heidelberg Reformation Association, 1637 East Valley Parkway, number 391, Escondido, California, 92027. Thanks for your prayers and support, and have a wonderful spring. Call or text now, 760-618-1563.
All right, let's open the offer. Reach in. It's still squeaky, but that's useful since sound is kind of important in a podcast. All right. This is from Martin, who's writing, I believe, from the United Kingdom.
Probably Wales by the spelling of his name.
I believe he's in Northern Ireland.
Sorry, Martine.
It's okay.
Martine.
But I don't. But what his ethnicity is, his nation of origin, I don't know.
Thompson would be Scottish, wouldn't it? But Martin with a Y would be
true.
Welsh. So he's from Ireland.
I don't know.
Well, the Ulster plantation brought a lot of Scottish names to Northern Ireland.
Yes, of course. Yes. What about the Welsh? Was there any harvesting of the Welsh or movement of the Welsh into
Not to the same
Northern
degree.
Ireland?
That's why it's the Ulster Scots.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the Ulster Welsh.
Yeah. So when we say Scots-Irish, that's what we're talking about, right? People typically from Northern Ireland. I have Welsh roots. I'm part Welsh on my mom's side.
Yeah, I'm like 2%.
So this says, "Hey, Dr. Clark, I have a question for you and your fellow super friends. What do you think is the ideal method of confessional subscription for office bearers? Following on from this, what are the issues and flaws you're seeing with the various subscription methods in more sound, confessionally reformed denominations? Thank you for all you do, Martin." All right, Martin. Well, thank you for listening and thank you for writing. This is a good question. We wanted to tackle this. What's the ideal method of confessional subscription? So, listener, if you want to know more about this and you want to know some of the reasons why I say what I'm about to say, there's a chapter devoted to this in Recovering the Reformed Confession, which is still strangely available in print. It's chapter 5. It's also available online. It's also available as an ebook and as an audiobook. So if you don't want to read, you just want to listen, you can do that. Although I don't think the reader read the footnotes. So you won't get the footnotes when you get the audiobook.
Wait, what's going on? I thought we were answering a question about the X-Files.
No, we are answering a question. We're answering Martin's question about confessional
So we're having a
subscription.
second question today.
Martin
okay.
from Wales.
No, I think he's from Northern Ireland. But anyway, we've already been there. See, this is like the X-Files. I noticed there were several references to deja vu, but we'll come back to that. All right. So I'll start. What I like to tell people, because I think it's true, is that there are essentially two ways of relating to confessional documents. And there are two Latin words that we use to categorize these approaches. The one is quia, Q-U-I-A, and it just means because. And so the quia approach says that we subscribe confessional documents because we believe them to be biblical. My understanding is that's the earliest approach, the earliest Reformed approach to confessional subscription. There were other approaches that developed later, and we could discuss, exactly how late, but they began to predominate in the 18th century, and they have become more dominant in the 20th and 21st centuries. We use another Latin word to categorize those, and that's quatenus, Q-U-A-T-E-N-U-S, and it means insofar as. So because and insofar as are the two big categories, and under insofar as, right, under that category, there are a variety of approaches. On one end, I would put the PCA good faith subscription approach. So that would be a version, a subset of quatenus. And then on the other end, I would put full or strict. And then in the middle somewhere, I would put system. So those are all varieties. And then there are people talk about loose subscription. That would be some form of quatenus. I think that's all of them. So good faith, loose, system, strict, or full, which I take as synonyms. So those are all versions of quatenus. And for my money, the way we ought to relate, and the argument that I made in Recovering the Reformed Confession, was that we ought to subscribe confessions because they're biblical. If there are things in them that we believe to be unbiblical, then we should revise them. And one of the problems we've gotten ourselves into is that we have stopped writing confessions, and we've functionally, I guess, we revised them, but formally we've been reluctant to revise them. Now, that being said, in my federation of churches that I serve, or which my congregation is, and I serve my congregation strictly, we have revised the Belgic Confession on one substantive point and a couple of minor points. So the Belgic originally said that the Chronicles, First and Second Chronicles, were commonly known as parallelopomenon, and they haven't been commonly known as parallelopomenon for a very long time. So I think we revised that. And we originally, the Belgics said that Paul wrote Hebrews, and we revised that because lots of Reformed people, at least since the time of Calvin, have not agreed that Paul wrote Hebrews.
It was Phoebe, right?
No, I doubt that.
Or Aquila wrote it.
No.
His wife wrote it for him, and then he preached it.
No, I don't think that. But it's possible that Apollos wrote it. He fits the characteristics of the kind of person who would have written
That's
Hebrews.
true.
And it would make some sense that Luke mentions that story that might have some connection. Because whoever wrote it was a Hellenistic Jew, and that seems to describe Apollos, who knew the Old Testament, and then partly out of that conversation with Aquila and Priscilla, came to appreciate more fully the flow of redemptive history and its culmination in Christ. So anyway, we don't know who wrote Hebrews. So I have an opinion.
That's always my answer. And then people are, but who do you think? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. There you go. I think it's fascinating that we feel the impulse to have to guess. Oh, I don't know. I can't know. The Lord apparently thought I wasn't supposed to know, or he would have given us more information. And yet here we are, and we think, but I should know, so I'm going to guess.
I don't know. So
I don't know.
But if you're looking for candidates, and over the centuries, lots of names have been put forward as potential authors.
Thaddeus? I think it was Thaddeus.
But there are historical reasons why Paul's name came to be put forward. The Western Church didn't know originally. The Eastern Church was pretty sure it was Paul. And so the Eastern Church received Hebrews more quickly. And then as the West came to assign it to Paul, then the doubts resolved themselves. But
So who wrote it?
we don't know ultimately. Anyway, Scott's trying to cause trouble here. That never happens. But those are some things. And then the more substantive revision of the Belgic was the revision of 36, where we removed the language, the what do we want to call it? Some people might call it theocratic, Constantinian, establishmentarian. That's probably the most accurate way of describing it. The establishmentarian language of Belgic 36, where the magistrate is supposed to punish heretics. We removed that language. So, and that was a case that began in the 1890s by Abraham Kuyper. He's the one who made that argument. And then,
What if the magistrate is a heretic?
well, you certainly wouldn't want him punishing, right? Making decisions about who is and isn't Orthodox, or who should or should not be punished, and you don't really want him involved in that business. So, which has frequently been the case, that magistrates have been heretics, going all the way back to Julian the Apostate.
I don't think we've revised the Westminster Confession since the 1788.
Yes, which is one of the reasons why most who subscribe to Westminster subscribe at Quatenus, because they have scruples, they take exceptions, and the like. At least that's often the case.
You're not allowed to take exceptions in the OPC.
So, yeah, okay, that's interesting. Do you think everyone, all those who subscribe, who would be ministers and ruling elders and deacons, am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay, but laity are not asked to subscribe or even even necessarily affirm the Westminster
I thought they
Standards.
were.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. We're not a confessional membership.
I misunderstood that.
Yeah, and technically the United Reformed Churches are not either, but you are asked to affirm, right? The members don't subscribe technically, but they do affirm the three forms.
What's the difference?
Well, we literally write our names when you're received into office. You literally write your name underneath the three forms.
The members don't write their names down anywhere. Like, I want to be a member.
They certainly don't subscribe, and we have pastoral advice that we've received that's been presented to the churches by synod, describing the relation of laity to the confessional documents. It's a little bit complicated, but we do distinguish between the way elders, ministers, and deacons relate to the standards and the way laity relate to them.
So what was your question about no exceptions in the OPC?
So I'm reasonably sure that there have been people, for example, I know Mr. Murray had a number of scruples about the standards at various points, and they were quite detailed.
They just examine your views and decide whether or not they fit within the received understanding of the confession.
Okay.
So it's an animus imponentis sort of issue, right?
Why don't you explain what that means? Not everybody.
Right. The spirit of imposition.
Harrison, say it again in Latin.
Animus imponentis.
And it literally translates as the spirit of imposing is the literal translation of that phrase. But what does it mean?
So the body can decide in what sense are we receiving this document as to what's allowable within it. So I mean the one that's going to be, I guess, most famous is God created in the space of 6 days, and the OPC has decided there's a spectrum of views that fit within the credible and acceptable way of affirming this confession as your confession. And so instead of saying, well, you dissent from what it says, we have a range of ways to affirm that.
Yeah. In a sense, what's happened is that and this is not a criticism, just an observation, the reception of the document rather than the original intent of the document, perhaps, that's a matter debated, I know, is being, to put it most neutrally, is being granted some weight, some significant weight, right?
Yeah. And I think it would be a mistake to think that in each of those, the intent is to provide more flexibility, because that's not, so there's this historical debate over whether or not the whole satisfaction
Yes.
The whole obedience and the whole obedience and satisfaction of Christ. There's a historical debate about whether or not the intent there is to affirm the imputation of active obedience or not. But our presbyteries, I believe, are requiring people to think it means that as the way we receive that document. So whether or not concessions were made to Thomas Gattaker and perhaps Richard Vines in the way that that confession was framed is aside the point, because the imposing body has said, well, the way that we understand this is to require the imputation of active obedience.
Yeah. Maybe a notable case of this, right, animus imponentis, was the decision of the Scottish Church to receive the standards as imposing Presbyterianism. Listener, not everyone knows this, but one of the major debates, maybe the major debate at the assembly, was what should the nature of church government be? What should the structure of the church be? Should it be Anglican or Episcopalian in structure? Or should it be congregational in structure? Or should it be Presbyterian in structure? So there was a lot of debate about that, and multiple books have been written about the debates over polity and ecclesiology at the assembly. But when the Scottish Church received it, it was a Presbyterian church, and they received it as imposing presbyterial polity. Am I close to getting that right, Harrison?
Yeah, the General Assembly that received it in Scotland also, interestingly, made some comments to the effect of, this is a great document, and as long as it means this, when it says this thing that we're not the biggest fan of that line, namely about the magistrates, and that, as long as it means this, we like this a lot.
Yeah.
So even the original reception of it had something of this flair to it.
Yeah, that's animus imponentis. This is the intent of the receiving body and imposing body. So every ecclesiastical body that has a confession has to receive that confession. Even if they drafted it themselves, they would still have to receive it and impose it, and there would be an understanding. So that's what we did for years. Students used to ask me in the Reformed Confessions class, we would go through the Belgic, and we'd talk a little bit about the Heidelberg, and I give them lots of reading on the Heidelberg and the canons, but mainly we went through the Belgic in that class. And they would often ask, well, it says, Paul wrote Hebrews. Do I have to say that? And I would say, well, we have not received the Belgic to impose Pauline authorship, to make that a standard of orthodoxy. I don't remember anybody being required on the floor of classes to affirm Pauline authorship of Hebrews, or that First and Second Chronicles are commonly called paralipomenon, since hardly anyone even knows what the words paralipomenon mean anymore. They haven't been commonly called that for, I don't know, I would guess at least 150 years. I don't even remember seeing that in the 19th century, but it's possible somebody in the 19th century was still using it.
When you were in seminary, or?
Yes, I was in seminary in a previous century, but not that previous century.
This is the Heidelcast.
To answer Martin's question, I actually do like the way that the OPC does this. I mean, I have been ordained in the PCA previously and now in the OPC, and I actually am a fan of this. Now, in our BCO, I guess we categorize this as system subscription, because the second vow, ministerial vow, is, do you sincerely receive and adopt the confession of faith and catechisms of this church as containing the system of doctrine taught in the Holy Scripture? So I suppose that on paper categorizes us as system subscription, but there aren't exceptions. So I guess I would take that as you put system in the middle of good faith and strict, and I guess I would think that at least makes us a hybrid of system and strict.
Yeah, that's probably right. I don't disagree with that.
Was that the whole vow? Was that your whole second vow, or is there more to it?
The whole second vow. Because are you thinking about government?
Well, I'm looking at our second vow, and it's the same, but then there's a semicolon. So there's a period where you stop reading.
Well, there's a question mark.
There's a question mark. Okay. So where you stopped reading, it says semicolon. And do you further promise, this is the PCA, And do you further promise that if at any time you find yourself out of accord with any of, and here's the one that gets me every time, the fundamentals of this system of doctrine, you will on your own initiative make known to your presbytery the change which has taken place in your views since the assumption of this ordination vow. So whereas on paper it looks as if it says, but if you disagree with any of the fundamentals, that's a problem. But if it's not a fundamental, then it's fine. I've always wondered, where's a list of the vitals of the fundamentals? And when I've asked that question before, I was told, stop asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, the moment you introduce a qualifier like vitals of religion
or fundamentals, that's
So typically, at least historically in the PCA, hasn't vitals really come down to things like justification, right? The PCA drew a line formally in 2007 when it came to the federal vision that they seemed to say, well, this is a vital, but you're allowed to dissent from what the confession says about the second commandment or what the larger catechism says or what have you about the second commandment.
Depending on the presbytery.
Depending on the presbytery, that's right.
That's a judgment of presbyteries. That's not a stated rule.
Exactly. So in some presbyteries, you can dissent from what the standards say on the second and the fourth commandment, and in some presbyteries you can't.
The 10 Commandments aren't vital or fundamental.
Well, yeah, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, once you've said, vitals of religion, but then you've affirmed, you have to hold the vitals of religion, but then you allow people to dissent from what the church clearly confesses about the second and fourth commandments, then you've effectively said we don't regard those as touching the vitals of religion.
Reading Machen, What is Faith?
And what is it?
Well, I just
resting and receiving. Easy answer, resting and receiving.
Well, that's going to be the next chapter, What is Faith in Christ? Because this was the chapter I read was What is Faith in God? It's believing that he exists and that the things he tells us are true.
Can you connect that with what we're trying to...
No, I was just explaining my yawn.
I like that segue, Dr. Clark. Good faith subscription.
Let's see. I'm looking. I'm a little distracted because I'm looking for the vows. Speaking of church websites, the URC website is hard to use. And I was looking for the church order, and I'm looking for the vows, and I found the forms.
I've been confused by your all's website. I'm not going to lie.
PCA has the best website.
Even the documents. When I have pulled up your church order to look at a couple of things, I've just thought this looks like a document that somebody just made, and it doesn't look like an official document.
Is it handwritten?
No.
There we go. Okay, here's the form of subscription. I found it. So our form of subscription says, we, the undersigned ministers of the gospel, elders and deacons of the United Reformed Congregation of such and such, do hereby and sincerely, in good conscience before the Lord, declare by this our subscription that we heartily believe and are persuaded that all the articles and points of doctrine contained in the Belgic Confession and the Heidelberg Catechism of the Reformed Churches, together with the explanation of some points of the aforesaid doctrine made by the National Synod of Dordrecht in you have to say it with the right accent, 1618 to 1619, do fully agree with the Word of God. We promise, therefore, diligently to teach and faithfully to defend the aforesaid doctrine without either directly or indirectly contradicting the same by our public preaching, teaching, or writing. We declare, moreover, that we not only reject all errors that militate against this doctrine, and particularly those that were condemned by the above-mentioned synod, but are also disposed to refute and contradict them, and to exert ourselves in keeping the church free from such errors, and hereafter any difficulties or different sentiments respecting the aforesaid doctrines should arise in our minds, we promise that we will neither publicly nor privately propose or defend the same, either by preaching, teaching, or writing, until we have first revealed such sentiments to the consistory classes or synod, that the same may there be examined, being ready always cheerfully to submit to the judgment of the consistory classes or synod, under the penalty, in case of refusal, of being by that very fact suspended from our office. And it goes on. And further, if at any time the consistory classes are synod, upon sufficient grounds of suspicion and to preserve the uniformity and purity of doctrine, may deem it proper to require of us further explanation of our sentiments respecting any particular article of the Confession of Faith, the Catechism, or the explanation of the National Synod. We do hereby promise always to be willing and ready to comply with such requisition, etc. And we have the right of appeal.
Can you say that middle part again?
I think I'll send you a link and you can read it. But anyway, I read the form just because it's probably likely that the listener has never heard a form of subscription and doesn't know the kinds of promises that Reformed ministers make when they enter into their office. And I think it's good for listeners to know, especially laity. Obviously, ministers and elders and deacons have some idea of what promises are made, but laity, right, those unordained members of our churches may not know the kind of language that we use and the kind of oaths that ministers have sworn before God and the church, at least in the United Reformed Churches.
Do you not take your ordination vows publicly?
Well, how many people are there when people are ordained? I mean, how often?
How many people are listening?
Quite a few, actually, as it happens.
I thought that there was a good amount at my installation.
Not at mine.
When you say how many people are listening, I thought you were talking about the Heidelcast.
No. I mean, when you're taking your public vows at your either
that's my
ordination,
point. I mean,
ordination.
So, however many are there for the ordination service, hear it, but that's not it.
They're waiting for the cake and coffee after.
That's not everybody in the church, though, who hears that. And
I mean, that's why I took the vows.
was cake.
So that people would hear it
to get to the
and
cake.
understand it?
No, I'm just kidding.
So as you heard those vows, how different were those from the vows that you men took?
Well, that was long. Was that one vow?
You had so many vows. You read so many things. Like I wanted you to repeat it because I didn't catch everything after we be undersigned.
Was that one vow?
That was all 64 vows at once.
Well, that's the form of subscription, right? That's what we call the form.
Ours is half a sentence.
Well, no, we have vows that our members take and vows our ministers take, but there are vows in this form of subscription as well, right? You're promising to do certain things.
Well, that's I mean, we have 7 vows that we affirm to the presbytery upon intent of taking a call, and then affirm upon ordination and or installation at a new call.
I'm just searching the URCNA site to see if there's separate vows. And when I do that, the only thing that comes up is the ordination of elders and deacons. I'm looking at, I went through the liturgical forms.
There was one that, because Scott was both of you were at my installation. And we have the one that's kind of a two question vow. And Scott asked, and it's a different answer. And Scott asked me if they had it written on the back or projected at the back so that I could read it. Because it's, have you been induced, as far as you know, your own heart, to seek the office of holy ministry from love to God and sincere desire to promote his glory in the gospel?
Is that number 5?
Oh, maybe that's not it. There's one that's it seems like there was one that was, have you and do you?
Do you engage?
And I said, I have and I do.
Are you now willing? And do you, relying upon God? That's number 8 for us. Are you and do you?
Our elders and deacons have 4 vows, but I think the form of subscription covers our vows as far as I can tell.
The best podcast, the Heidelcast.
Do we want to tackle the second part of the question?
Please, we do. So what are the issues and flaws you're seeing with the various subscription methods in more sound confessionally reformed denominations? So I can say that I have publicly complained about good faith subscription. I've done it here in this episode, and I've written about it too. So listener, if you just go to heidelblog.net, you can search for good faith.
Do you mean formal? Do you mean formally complained? Yeah. Have you complained or have you whined about it?
I have no standing in the PCA to file any complaints. So I'm using complain colloquially, informally. I have not filed any ecclesiastical complaints because nobody would hear them in the PCA because Yes.
I didn't mean that pejoratively. I just meant it to distinguish. Although in hindsight, I find it humorous.
In hindsight, yes.
You guys are nerds.
Yes, the OPC guy amuses himself, so that's okay. We're here for you.
Well, I can't please everybody, and I might as well
Ricky
amuse
Nelson
myself.
to the rescue. Can't please everyone. You got to please yourself.
I mean, Willie Nelson?
No, Ricky Nelson. That was I went to a garden party. You can look it up.
He was in that movie with John Wayne, right?
No. Yes, actually he was. You're right. Yes, he was. You're right.
Come on. And Dean Martin.
Yes.
John Wayne, Ricky Nelson, and Dean
Speaking of
Martin.
Martin, let's look at his question.
Rio Bravo?
Yes, Rio Bravo.
Was it
I think
Rio
that's
Bravo?
right. Because he made 2 films that were similar. One with Dean Martin playing a drunk who needed to be rehabilitated, and there's another film that's quite similar. But
So he didn't have to act much. That's cool.
John Wayne? No.
Dean Martin.
Oh, Dean Martin. No, he wasn't a drunk at all. No, it was all an act.
They used to use apple juice in their.
It was
Dean Martin. Dean Martin was a
glasses
good
on
guy.
stage.
I wasn't. It was a joke. I wasn't saying anything bad about Dean Martin.
No, I understand.
It was a joke. He's my favorite.
No, he's a good guy, and it was a family man. So, for the most part,
His original name was Dino Martini.
Wasn't he a womanizer?
okay, that's correct. I was just about to say that before you corrected me. There are substantial allegations about womanizing. That's true. So,
From the crooners? From the Italian crooners? I don't believe it.
well, I don't know what Italian has to do with anything, but yes,
That's
Yeah.
racist.
it kind of is. Yes,
I can say it since I'm Italian.
Oh,
Italian American.
are you really? I don't.
the McDermonds from the Tuscan
Exactly.
region.
Actually, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but when a man marries a woman, the woman actually takes the man's last name.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
Okay.
Did you?
You've
You've heard of that before?
Happened
Okay.
in my family. Yeah.
But what does that have to do with being, with being Italian?
So the Italian names are not retained if they're from the woman's side.
Okay.
Well, you just insinuated that if your name is McDermott, you can't have
Okay.
Italian family.
Okay. You're saying that
So there's Italians in your family.
on your
line.
mother's side.
Well, yeah, my grandmother, my
Oh,
dad's mom,
Okay.
is from Italy.
And plus, you worked in an
They
Italian.
they
you
were
worked-
from Florence.
Didn't you work in an Italian restaurant?
No,
Didn't you?
Irish.
Oh, I thought you worked in an Italian restaurant.
So did
Oh,
I.
you're thinking of the steakhouse, which was owned by Chaldeans.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
now you're being racist.
I worked at an Italian
So
restaurant.
that makes you de facto Italian.
So-
What was it? Olive
was
Garden? Was that?
No. Papa John's.
Oh, okay. That's about as Italian as Olive Garden. Now,
Yeah. It was actually a step down.
that being said, I like Olive Garden, but I haven't. Everything's gotten so stinking expensive now. I just about have to quit going to restaurants now.
It's the same to go to McDonald's as to go to like a steakhouse. basically. I just- I
No,
don't even get it.
no. That's not true. I was just at a steakhouse.
Well, then it's as expensive to go to McDonald's as it used to be to go to a steakhouse.
Well, that's about right. No, that's about
So-
right. Yeah. I'm sorry for the hourly wage workers. I'm now back to 10% tips. So you, at least out here, your hourly wage is $25 or more or whatever it is. I'm not sure what it is now, but I'm sorry. I can't afford. I took a student to lunch yesterday and it wasn't horrible, but it was $35 for the two of us. I mean, that was,
Wow.
yeah.
So it wasn't Five Guys because that's how much one burger is.
Well, yeah, I remember when you could get the little burger at Five Guys. When you guys were here, I could take you to lunch and I could get a little burger for what, $3, $2.50, $3. I don't even know if they sell the little burger anymore.
I think it's a little more than that. I mean, it wasn't nearly as much as it is now, but I don't know that.
No, the big one was $5 and the little one was like $3.50. And now the big one is, I don't know what it is anymore. They took away our Five Guys. I have to go. In fact, we don't even have one in San Marcos anymore. I have to go all the way to Carlsbad or Encinitas, which I'm not doing because it's too much work.
I have to go all the way to Lansing, which is like 3 hours.
Oh my. Well, you probably have. Do you have any? You have restaurants in Bad Axe, right?
Taco Bell, KFC.
Okay. Well, you have fast food places, and you must have some sit-down restaurants, right? Yes. No. Maybe.
I mean, they have them.
Okay. Okay. They exist. That's all I was asking.
They do exist.
I wasn't asking for a review. I was just asking if they existed, because you don't want to get in trouble with the good people of Bad Axe by demeaning their restaurants.
Yes, because they listen. to this
And they do.
show.
So we had in Mom's hometown, there were 2 restaurants. There was a cafe and a restaurant. And all that's left now is the cafe. So, and it's not even a cafe anymore.
I feel bad for Martin because I'm not even sure that we've.
So I'll just throw this in there. If one of the problems is when we have this kind of nebulous idea of what the vitals or the fundamentals are, and we can't just say, here's the fundamentals. When fundamentals for me are not fundamentals for you, then we have a problem. And that can make it difficult when someone is coming into these vows and they're saying, yes, I promise, I vow that if any issue with the fundamentals, I'll let you know. But for them, if the second commandment is not fundamental, I mean.
Yeah. Now, isn't it the case that most of the time in the PCA, if someone has scruples about some portion of the standards, that they do express that?
They do express that.
Those two.
Yes,
Okay.
they do.
And typically, at least in the presbyteries, in some presbyteries, those are routinely granted. Those exceptions are routinely granted.
That's my problem that I'm trying to bring up.
Yeah, and so the fundamental problem with that is that you have as many confessions as there are presbyteries. So in some parts of the PCA, you can't get ordained unless you affirm some version of 624-hour creation. And in some presbyteries, you might have trouble getting ordained if you said, I have no exceptions, because it's been commonly said my entire Reformed life by some segments of the Reformed community that if you have no exceptions, it means that you don't understand the issues or that you're not being honest.
When I told the committee that I took no exceptions, they then questioned me on the larger catechism with respect to the second and fourth commandment because they thought I had not read it yet.
Yeah. So that's the assumption. I remember hearing that as a young Reformed man.
Which I'm fine with. I'm glad that they did that.
Yeah.
Because that's doing their due diligence.
I mean, and obviously when you say system, there's assumed some distance between the boundaries of the document and the system that makes up the core.
I don't know that that's how I've understood. Yeah, I've understood that to be taking it as a whole, not the smaller part. I think you might be turning system into vitals.
Well,
and I actually don't think that's the point.
I mean, I don't think system is equivalent exactly to vitals. My argument is it's on the continuum with vitals. And I, as a seminary professor, I swore to uphold the system. And a system has been explained to me several times over the decades. It was made clear that didn't entail.
Yeah. Does the Westminster Confession explicitly reject eternal functional subordination?
Well, explicitly, no.
Yeah, but because of the system, you're required to reject it.
Well, I agree, but that's an inference, right? And an application
from the system.
Yes.
So I think that's part of
but
this,
I mean
that.
Yeah.
And it's not the line, at least in our vow, is not the system. You're not affirming the system flexibly in the standards. You're affirming that the confession and the catechisms contain the system of doctrine taught in the Holy Scriptures.
Yeah.
Which are not organized in systematic categories.
So I guess I'm influenced in my understanding of system.
Well, you know what I think of influence.
Yeah. But I'm affected in my understanding of
there we go.
Of system by the things I've read in, for example, Charles Hodge, who said, speaking about the Northern Presbyterian Church, not obviously about the OPC, which didn't exist yet, that he couldn't expect all the ministers in the Northern Church to uphold all of the standards. In fact, he didn't think that he could even expect them all to uphold all the 5 points of the Synod of Dort, even. Of course, there would be Amyraldians, for example. I think he mentions that. But that he did so under the umbrella of system. So I guess that's in the background. And I discussed that, by the way, in Recovering, listener, if you're interested in pursuing that a little bit. So there are some potential issues and maybe even practical issues. I mean, there were guys in the OPC, in my experience, who understood system to mean they didn't have to uphold the second commandment. I heard lectures from an Orthodox Presbyterian minister who, ministers who dissented from the teaching of the standards on the covenant of works and who dissented from the teaching of the standards, did there to be a different prof, explicitly on the second commandment.
Well, there's principle and there's execution.
Yeah. This was back in the 80s, so previous century, and things have changed. And one of those men was part of what we might call a progressive movement within the OPC, and a lot of those churches left the OP and went into the PCA, right, when the merger failed in the 80s. But that was a part of the history of the OP where there were guys pretty openly dissenting from the teaching of the standards.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to pinpoint the locus of the problem or of the malfunction. Is it, and it could be, I'm not challenging, I'm just trying to think through it. Is the problem particularly in the method of subscription or the upholding it? I mean, I think about a more extreme example in the Church of England, which has a good confession, but never enforced.
Yeah.
Anymore, at least, in the 39 articles. It's at least decent. It's a Reformation document that ought to keep people mostly on track. And yet I have known guys who worked in the central office in Lambeth Palace in the disciplinary, and they'll never discipline for doctrine and theology. So although they have to take a vow about this document being, I guess they kind of dodge it in that way. It's the historical statement of faith for the Church of England. So they promise that somebody believed this at some point. But I just wonder if, is it that it's system, or is it that, then some people say this is fine to do within system subscription? Because that's an execution problem. If you say, well, you don't have to affirm the covenant of works, even though it's clearly stated as part of the system or the second commandment.
Yeah, that gets to the definition of system, right? What does it mean? And you want to take, and maybe you're right, maybe this is how it's taken now in the OPC, the system is effectively a kind of quia. You're subscribing the confession because it's biblical, not to the extent that.
And it's got parts that move together. I guess that's, there's a whole and it hangs, and there's parts that move together, and your understanding of these doctrines from Holy Scripture has to square with how we receive this confession as a whole and integrating.
Yeah.
But maybe I am shoring up things in my own mind. That could be.
Well, I think that's a reasonable account of system. The question is, how widely held is it? And it may be that after the late 80s, when there was that separation, it could be that there's a much more uniform understanding of system today in 2026 than there was, say, for example, in 1986. That's entirely possible. But certainly the good faith approach is more subjective and leaves more room, I think intentionally, right, so that the PCA can be something of not a big tent, but a bigger tent, right? And I've had that pretty clearly spelled out to me more than once.
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow for more from the Heidelcast, brought to you by Heidelberg Reformation Association.org. Don't forget, when the coin in the coffer clinks, the cost of bandwidth shrinks. Copyright Heidelberg Reformation Association. All rights reserved. This is a Heidel Media production.
The best podcast